Good morning. Good Monday morning, everybody. I am probably going to start like a morning chat just to go over some things maybe and have a discussion that involves context, perspective, wisdom of experience. If you have any reply or response to what I'm saying, put a comment. So, it is Monday, February 10th, 2020, and I cannot believe how much has been happening in the news. It is super hard to keep up. But I kind of wanted to talk about the differences in perception between liberals and conservatives. So, after Rush Limbaugh got the Presidential Medal of Freedom at the State of the Union last Tuesday evening, there were a lot of posts that were very disgusted because he has made some comments that can be seen as insensitive toward women and immigrants and who else? About the NBA. And these comments have been put on memes, and I'm not a fan. I was never a fan of Rush Limbaugh, but I have heard him from time to time, and it's funny, what I remember hearing him talk about mostly is taxes. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because the editor of The New Yorker, David Remnick, he wrote a column about Rush Limbaugh after the State of the Union, and he said, basically, Trump's racist, Rush Limbaugh is racist, and here's why. There was this guy named Lee Atwater. He died at age 40 in 1991, but he was the man, the cynical, baby-faced, young, ruthless upstart who was responsible for the campaign commercial for George H.W. Bush in the 1988 presidential election, the one that showed an inmate, Willie Horton, who had been released on parole and who had gone on to reoffend and be violent. Sorry about the camera. Hi. Hello. So anyway, how do you pronounce your name? Zia? Nice to see you. So, Lee Atwater, I barely remember who he was. And he gave an interview at the White House, I believe, during the elder President Bush's first term. And he said, I heard an actual recording of this on YouTube recently, and he was saying to the White House press corps, now, don't quote me on this, but, back in the 50s and 60s, in order to appeal to Southern white voters, you had to, you obviously want to telescope to them that you're racist, right? So you use the N-word. And then he says, but then you get in trouble. You get in trouble these days for using the N-word. So then you have to talk about public safety. You have to talk about safe streets and, law and order, because that telescopes, or signals to Southern voters who might vote Democrat, that the Republicans are the ones who are, will keep the riffraff out of your neighborhoods, the immigrants, the blacks, everybody out of your neighborhood, and all we gotta say is law and order, and low taxes, because, and this David Remnick was actually saying that when you talk about not wanting to pay taxes, that you're racist, essentially, because people of color are the ones who benefit from a more equitable tax system, which is absolute hogwash. Absolute hogwash. It's like just approaching all of the issues in our imperfect union in an ass backwards way by stating that being unhappy with high taxes makes it so that it's a disproportionate amount of people of color who would be suffering from lowering taxes. First of all, we have a progressive tax system mostly, except for like gasoline tax and sales tax. That's regressive because it's more expensive for poor people. Anyway, so I was raised Republican, but in college I became liberal, and mostly because I saw a lot of homeless people in Chicago, and I did a lot of articles and video packages on them as part of my student training and in journalism. And so I became liberal because I did not really think that any compassion expressed by Republicans was sincere. Basically, I felt like they thought, you should pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which is kind of like what AOC, she tackled that metaphor, the bootstrap metaphor. And honestly, I probably would have said something like that 10 years ago, because I didn't see the compassion in the Republican side and the business side and the GOP, which is the Republican Party. So then along came the Iraq War, and I could see right through it. And I just knew that it was, first of all, it wasn't going after the perpetrators, the quote perpetrators of 9/11. It was aiming for an Islamic country that had nothing to do with the Wahhabists of Al-Qaeda and the ideology of Osama bin Laden. We all knew it. A lot of us knew it. And so that was really my big issue. And I remained liberal until the 2016 election, when I am now nothing. I do not believe that ideology can get us anywhere. I think that we have to look at the entire picture. So getting back to this whole thing about Lee Atwater and taxes. If you don't like paying high taxes, then you are racist, right? So Lee Atwater was not doing himself any favors. Obviously that tape leaked and it's been out for a while, and they call that the Southern strategy. So that when Donald Trump talks about law and order, or the importance of upholding and respecting law enforcement, everybody who knows about Lee Atwater and the Southern strategy is like, oh, what a racist, So it becomes now where you can't ask for accountability with your tax dollars, and you can't ask for safe communities unless you want to be called a racist. I mean, that is a very black and white statement, but it honestly is sort of like that. And I can also remember, so even before the 2016 election, I started looking into the spending that the federal government does, and the state government. And I live in California. And basically, there's no accountability at all. And if you try to talk about wasteful spending with tax revenue, you get some very angry responses. I know of some of the people even in my own family. And you start talking about waste, and they think, oh, you're infected with the poison of the greedy GOP, And that's not really scientific or productive, now is it? So we have a lot of wasted money. And what I saw is, as the 90s and the 2000s went by, we had fewer and fewer oversight and watchdog busts of defense contracting. Of course, we were in so many wars. I mean, it's war. We gotta spend this money. And so everybody knows about Halliburton. But there's a lot more than that. And there's a lot of reasons why our budget deficit is large every year, and why the national debt has ballooned far out of control than we could ever have dreamed of under Reagan, which is extremely disturbing, because he did embark on a very strong course of fiscal spending, as well as got the Fed to lower interest rates. So back to the whole tax thing. I think that when people get in arguments on Facebook and online, and they realize, okay, this person's a conservative, this person's a liberal, so they immediately feel like they're not gonna listen to what they're saying, and they don't. The conservative will say something about wasteful spending. The liberal will get angry and think, you're racist, you're doing dog whistles, and then it just kind of devolves from there. But we gotta understand that Lee Atwater was one person. Okay, he doesn't represent everyone who believes in free market economics and the ability of incentive and invention and the system, the capitalist system, to cause the most innovation and invention and prosperity for the most amount of people. That's what the conservative line is in its purest form. Now, are there conservative bigots? Of course. I just think we shouldn't simply go to this idea that you're telling me you're not racist, but you really are, because you're just dumb and old. Okay, boomer. I mean, if we're really going to get to some kind of unity again, we gotta delve deeper into the details. Why does somebody believe what they believe? So, anyway, Rush Limbaugh had absolutely nothing to do with Lee Atwater, and neither does Donald Trump. If anything, the establishment politics of the Bush GOP has been pretty soundly rejected by most of the people who believe in President Trump right now. So that's my thought for the day, and maybe I'll do another video tomorrow morning to have discussions about, to really flesh out a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with and that we're researching. And I thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful Monday, and take heart. I truly believe that complete information is the way to our unity. All right. Talk to you soon.